I can't quite explain it, but every time a new client joins my coaching program and vows to truly change their money situation, God, the universe, or whatever else you believe in throws things their way to confirm that they're on the right track. Extra money miraculously appears, bills come back with credits, checks show up in the mail, family members send blessings. And this isn't an anomaly to just one or two clients. It happens to just about all of them who truly decide to improve their finances. Tamika is no different. Tamika is a money coaching client of mine who started working with me in 2021 and has continued with ongoing support. I have seen amazing shifts in Tamika's mindset, and it has translated to her manifesting amazing things back to back. In this episode, I'm talking with Tamika about her experience with manifestation and how she's now a true believer. Started working together in March of 2021 after having a consultation with me. I still remember the hesitation in her voice when she decided to invest in one-on-one money coaching. Tamika lives in Philadelphia and works full-time as a communications analyst for a hospital. Since Tamika and I started working together, she's seen a $34,000 increase in her salary over 2 years at the same job. We'll talk about that later in the episode. Tamika owns her home currently and has goals of retiring and moving to Las Vegas with her partner in the next 10 years or so. Tamika, I am so glad that you are here. I feel like we have manifested this conversation.
Yes, we definitely did.
Gave listeners a brief overview of, your situation, but can we start by you sharing just a little bit about your background, your upbringing, your college years, and life after entering the working world from a financial perspective, but also from like a mindset perspective?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Ray. I am so excited. This is great. This is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you. So I can't say I was expecting this first series of questions. I have to be honest about that. But I can say that I truly don't look like what I've been through. So when I think about my upbringing, it was extremely adverse. My sister and I, we lived through homelessness for many years. Then we spent some years in foster care. So my teenage years were stable, which to me means we were fed, we were safe, we were clothed. I did manage to go to college for a few years, but not having that adult direction, if you will. I went to school at night and I worked during the day. And I think it was around that time that I thought that was the best way to provide for myself. You just get that little taste of money, especially at such a young age. I had some money that I could spend and do whatever I wanted to do with it. So I made the choice to go into or continue working full time, I should say. So I worked for some years before stumbling into technology, voice technology. One of the things that I truly like about it is it continually changes. I also discovered while working how much I like that change and the continued challenge that comes along with me having to learn and conquer new technologies. It's really fulfilling for me.
I'm so glad to hear that. And, I know that you have been through a lot, especially growing up. And so, when you were younger and you were experiencing those things, how did you view money as you were growing up? I mean, what did you think when you saw other people having, nice things? How were your thoughts back then?
I think for the most part, one of the ways that I looked at it is money, things, if you will. Those were the things that we never had much of, and no one was giving it away. So seeing people with nice things made me realize if I was going to have anything like a place to live, clothes on my back, etc., I was going to have to work for it. That was my general thought, but it shaped me and my view around money. Work harder to have more of it, which truly that's not the case. Because of the lack, I developed a poverty mindset, which until a few years ago, I never knew I had. So my money always seemed to reach mid-level. So I spent my money on things, even places to live, etc., the same way.
Oh, you said something that like really hits home. So you said work harder and you'll have more money. And I feel like, we live in a society that promotes hustle culture. And don't get me wrong, like I do believe in the value of hard work, but I also believe that you can be blessed without having to put in the labor and the man hours, and things can happen without you always having to work so hard.
Correct, correct. I'm learning that more and more. I'm learning that, and these I always say on this side of life, on this side of the table, I'm learning that. I think when, like I said, when I was younger, it was just like, no, you might need to have two jobs or three jobs because that's the only way that you're going to get money, and you don't have to necessarily do that.
Right. So I know it was a while ago, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, but if you think back to that first conversation that you had with me when we had that consultation, can you remember, like what was going through your head and, why did you ultimately reach out for that consultation, number one, but what made you decide to truly invest in coaching? Because there was some hesitation there.
Definitely, for sure. It wasn't necessarily hesitation. I think it was more fear than anything.
Mm,
Um, I was just in a place like I remember being uncomfortable and afraid. Um, the first thought I think was, "Am I going to be able to do this?" Because it was you think about a diet, it's like, okay, you have to you have to curb the things that you eat. You may have to drink more water, that hamburger, that pizza that you like to have on Friday nights, you might have to stay away from that. And that can be a big challenge because we're just so comfortable with the way that we are doing things. So even though I was afraid and uncomfortable, that thought was still there, like, okay, I know I have to do something, but am I going to be able to do this? And I think it was almost like a scale, if you will. So it's am I going to be able to do this? And then on the other side of the scale was, if I don't, I'm certainly not going to make it. I was
mm.
really in a place that I was growing, which was what was happening. Looking back, I realized that that's what that was. It was me needing to move into the next part of my life. So I knew I had to change. And I reached out because I had no idea how to change, what steps I needed to take to change. And time was of the essence. There was just no other option. Like I knew that I couldn't continue to handle my money the way that I did.
So one point you made was that like as you looked back, you realized that you were actually growing. And I think when we are uncomfortable, that is when we are growing, right? When we are faced with situations or conversations or just people, things that make us uncomfortable, it's a sign that we are moving in a direction of being a new version of ourselves.
Yes.
So it makes sense that you were uncomfortable because something amazing was on the other side of that you hadn't seen. We don't know, right? We don't know what's on the other side of risk, but oftentimes it's usually worth it.
Yes, definitely.
That I love to hear that. And yeah, I mean, I think if anything, this investment has paid off in multiple ways and many
And then
returns.
some, yes, and then some.
So it's kind of funny. I was looking back over like old session notes, before this conversation, and I have a note from our first conversation that says, has recently come to the understanding that money mindset is a thing. So we were talking about something, and you had said to me that you are coming to the realization that money mindset is a thing. It exists. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that? Like what awakening did you have back then that made you realize that money mindset is a thing?
Well, it's interesting because there were just a number of things. Just kind of going back into being in that uncomfortable place. I remember it might have been like 2019, 2020, definitely. I knew that my thinking around my finances was way off. And there was a conversation that my boyfriend, I call him the BF,
Mhm.
him and I had had. And I just didn't realize how I was talking. He sat me down one day and he said, if, you always say that you don't have any money, but you do have money. If there's anything that you want to do, anything that you need, you let me know. And it was that conversation that kind of caused me to start to listen to myself. And that's always what I would say. I don't have any money. I don't have any money. I don't have any money. So what I started doing is I started following City Girl Savings and a few other financial coaches, because I knew, like, I was like, there's got to be something. There's got to be some information out here that will help me figure out how to manage my money, but also now what's going on with my mindset, what's happening with my thinking. Um, and I just remember attending a live session and it came up mindset. And then it was kind of like an awakening for me. The way that we think about money is the way we handle it. Our life experiences also shape our money views and the way we handle it. And that just blew me away because I'd lived all of my adult life handling my money exactly the way that I thought about it.
Mm.
So my mindset said lack. That was always what my mindset was. It was always lack, but I never realized that. Even my talk, I spoke about lack. So I knew then that I needed to change that because I can only go as far as my mind takes me.
Ooh, wow. I mean, the accuracy though, but it's crazy because we have to come to that realization on our own, right? Like we have to have those epiphanies ourselves. We can get triggered or people close to us can tell us like, "Hey, something's a little off here." But when you really take the time to sit and think about it, it's when you know better, you can do better, essentially.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I know I mentioned that we've been working together for over just about 2 years now, and, like, the change in how you think about your situation, how you think about your money, and what you believe is possible for yourself has been, a phenomenal growth that's been amazing to watch.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing for me to watch as well.
Yeah, it's amazing to live through that, right?
Yes.
So this kind of leads me into my next point pretty nicely. So I think one common theme or thing around our time together has been the fact that you always have enough, right? Like it's reiterating this point that you always have enough, especially when in the past you never thought you had enough. But I think, when we started shifting that mindset early on, we were able to see like, Tamika, you do have enough, right? Like your money covers exactly what it needs to cover. And yes, of course, things have been tight and obviously we need to save for goals, but you have always had what you needed from the very beginning of our time together. And I would say, even over time, like as your income has grown, it's almost like you've had more than you needed. But what do you think about that? Would you agree?
Yes, I do agree. So it's a couple things. So that has to be, I think, one of the most amazing things that has come out of me working with you. Mindset comes into play here, not just the dollars and cents, because enough has meant having needs and wants met. Because
Mm,
before, my thinking was my needs weren't being met, but all that time they were, but there was just overspending and other things that were coming into play that was kind of clouding that. So another thing is, and I just lost the thought just a little bit. Um, it's around it's around mindset. Come on back, come on back, come on back. You touched on a point that I wanted to mention. The having enough. And then even at times feeling like there's been more than enough. I think we had a discussion about this in one of our most recent sessions where it just seems like God is making it enough.
yes.
So one of my best friends, we have this kind of joke, when we're out together, and I may go to pay for something, and then she'll contribute to it, and she'll give me $1, and she'll say, "Make it enough." In this case, that is exactly what God is doing. As we've been kind of going through this, there have been some things that have come up, like my property tax increase, that has skyrocketed, and just that uncertainty there. And then yet there's been enough. And then yet there's been more than enough. So it almost feels like there's a little bit of a shifting scale. I don't know how to explain it. Almost like a bubble, that kind of recedes a little bit, and then it, fills back up a little bit, and it might go back in a little bit. So when you speak about tight, that's the way the tight has been feeling, but it's definitely been enough.
Uh, that's such a great way to put it because it's like, you know, the bubble surrounds like your normal day-to-day expenses and the things you want, right? Like everything we have in your budget essentially, and there's enough, right? But maybe something comes up to your point. But when something comes up, it's almost like more money comes your way and expands that bubble, if you will, so that now we can compensate for that thing that has popped up, right? And that goes back to the notion that you always have enough.
Yes, yes.
That's it's
I know.
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, on the topic of amazing, let's talk manifestation. Before working with me, did you believe in manifestation? Had you ever experienced it, or had you even like heard of the term manifestation?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that I always believed it on the surface, or should I say, I believed it in my mind, but maybe not in my heart. I say that because when I thought I was writing out a budget, and thank you so much for the budget education, because I was really just writing a list of my expenses,
Mm,
what I needed to do with the money I received during any given pay period. I would write a prayer, and I would ask God to help me to be a good steward, because now that I think back on that, I believe I always felt that I was mishandling my money. Uh,
mm,
and I wanted to handle it in the best way possible. So I would always say a prayer. I would always write that prayer, and then I would say it. I'd be like, "Oh Lord, please." It was always, "Lord, help me to be a good steward," because He gives you a little, and if you're faithful over a little, He'll give you a lot.
mhm.
Um, and I don't even think I was thinking about the lot. I just wanted to manage what I had.
Right.
So for me at the time, all I was able to manifest was staying in the lines. The bills were paid, the lights were on. I didn't, not I didn't have to worry about those kinds of things. I didn't come home and there was no more cable or internet, things like that. I was always able to pay my car note and put gas in my car. I was able to get back and forth to work. So I was always able to stay in the lines. And now I'm able to do so much more, and I'm in
Mm,
control of every decision I make with my finances, which I was not before. It was really like my money was controlling me, or should I say, maybe it was my habits and my spending that was controlling me. So the prayer was answered and is now manifesting in an even greater form.
oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. So, I feel like that's something new I learned about you. I don't think I knew that before we started
Okay.
working together, you would say a prayer every time you kind of listed out
Yes,
your
I don't think you know what, to be honest with you, Ray, I think you're right. I don't think I've ever mentioned that. I don't think I really thought about that until recently, just kind of looking back over then and now. And
Mhm.
I have a few journals, and I ran across that, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I remember when I used to do that. And I mean, I would be writing, my pen would be on that paper so hard. Lord, please help me to be a good steward, because I really wanted to do the best that I could with what I have.
I love that. And, doesn't God always answer?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, that's a really, really cool to hear. Um, so on the topic of manifestation, I mean, do you remember when manifesting started to become real for you during our coaching sessions, like earlier on? Like if you can think back, like what was, the first thing that you manifested, or like the first thing that comes to mind when we think of the changes that have come since our time together?
Yes, I wanna say enough, because that was the first thing that we noticed, you know, immediately, just about, that there was enough. And I was so afraid that there wasn't going to be. I felt like working with you, I'm going to be honest, Raya. I felt like the work that you and I were going to be doing was going to be like me eating liver. I don't like liver. So, so it was so, I think that first year that we worked together, it was, such a wonderful feeling because I was able to keep the lights on. I was able to save and enjoy myself. That's one of my favorite affirmations. I have more than enough money to cover all of my expenses, save and enjoy myself. And I still say that, to this day, but I would say that just about every day. And after I said it, I would always have like a smile because it was like, yes, there really is enough. And it was almost like I had to kind of to pinch myself because I couldn't believe, how fast that actually came about, you know.
Yeah, I do remember that. Like I remember, as you know, like mapping out paychecks and like the bills that come out is something we do in our sessions. And I do remember early on being like, see, look,
Mhm.
you have X amount left over. And you're like, what? How? Where?
Yes.
What is this? And from then on, the numbers continued to show that, right? They continued to show you had enough. Yeah, of course, like things pop up, things get tight, pay periods get tight. That's a normal part of budgeting and money management, but at the end of the day, like you've always pulled through. And we've always been able to future forecast to say, okay, so this is a very profitable pay period. We need some of this to roll into the next pay period. And then you have enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. And early on too, I remember one thing you told me was your birthday. You always want to do something for your birthday. You always want to get something for your birthday.
Right.
And we have been able to continue to do that,
Mhm.
and we do it in a way that, does not take away from your priorities, number one, but we plan and prepare in advance. So you have what you need when you're ready to spend it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that I feel like we've been talking about lately in our sessions is like this notion of worthiness. And I personally noticed that once you started believing that you were worthy of blessings and that they didn't have to come at a cost, it's almost like even more amazing things started happening in a shorter time frame. Why do you think you felt like you weren't worthy of good things happening for no reason at all? I guess it goes back to that notion of you have to work to get money, but let's go a little bit
Mhm.
deeper there.
Okay. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is little girl. The little girl that I was, or the little girl I'll say that is with me, the little girl that wasn't worthy of receiving love or much anything else without doing something or being something other than myself.
Mm.
So I think that's where a lot of that comes from. And this is what also amazes me about our work together because we are talking about finances. This isn't therapy here. We're not talking about like, traumatic experiences or things like that, but so much has opened up for me in the work that we have been doing. And I realize that, little girl needs a little bit more love. So there's this work that we've been doing has just kind of helped me, and I think it's because of mindset. I'm going to go back to that, touch that a little bit more because my mindset is changing. It's making me realize that no, what we need to be doing is not working harder or trying to, stand still to force ourselves into being worthy, but you need to love yourself. You need to love your love where you are right now, and hug on little girl a little bit, bring her along so that she can see that.
Oh, I mean, no one can see me like nodding my head, shaking my head, yes. But I'm so glad you mentioned little girl. I wasn't sure if this conversation was going to go that route. And I think you bring up such a good point that, yes, I'm a finance coach. Yes, the work we do is related to your finances, but our finances are tied to so many different things.
Yes.
And if we don't understand our past, if we don't understand those feelings that we experienced when we were younger, we may not be able to change or fix what we need to fix with our money in the present. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like recognizing that little girl never felt like she was deserving of that allows you to tell her she is, right?
Yeah.
And tell
Yeah.
yourself you are, and realize that, things don't have to come at a cost for you to be blessed. And it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like if you start doing the right things like with your money and with the shifts you're trying to make in your life, God,
Yeah.
the universe, whatever you believe in, is going to affirm that in a variety of different ways.
Yes. Yes.
And it's a work in progress, right? Like
Definitely.
it doesn't stop, but I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm so happy that, other clients of mine have that realization that you can open the door to things that are scary to think about or sad or, however it makes you feel, but it's okay and it will be okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So glad. So, as I mentioned, like this notion of worthiness that I feel like you are coming to the realization that you are worthy without having to work hard or without having, to pay a cost for things to bless you. More recently, there has been a lot of like back to back amazing wins,
Yeah.
manifestation, like things have been happening. So, first one we'll talk about is, you got into a new car lease and that resulted in you getting like multiple checks back unexpectedly. We weren't planning for it. I have the voice memos on my phone. You're like, Rhea, like this, what? I just got a check in the mail. Can you believe that? So let's talk about that. Like what has happened, around your new car lease and the money that's just magically appeared.
Okay. So for your listeners, I want to set that tone. Most of our sessions that we have, I always have a story. So so this is one of them. And to be honest with you, Rhea, I'm still just kind of sitting in awe of it, because again, you can only go as far as your mind takes you. And when it came time for me to get another car, actually, I ended my lease early because the car that I had, they no longer make, and it seems to be in demand. And I really wasn't, I think you had made the comment. You said, well, if it's in demand, you'll probably get a good deal. You said something around the lines of that. But, I was just like, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm going to turn the car in and I'll get another one. And that's exactly what happened. So, I walked into trading my old car in, hoping that my new payment wouldn't go up too much more. So I started looking at the mid range model of the car that I have now, and it was okay. I mean, it's a nice car. It's a safe car. I ended up with an SUV, and it's a Mazda. So Mazda is a tried and true name. I think that's all I've ever driven, to be honest, since I've been driving are Mazdas, and I always have good experiences with them. But I like gadgets. I like technology. So that mid range was kind of not working for me, because we made the mistake of when I went, I tested the top trim and the top trim in that range. And I just loved it. So when we sat down, I ended up having to order it due to supply, and then the payment was about 70%, $70, excuse me, $70 more. And my car insurance was cheaper with all the same coverages, which was really nice. So I'm thinking that's it. Yes, thank you, Lord. I'm so happy about that. But a few weeks later, after I got the car, I got a check in the mail for $90 for an overpayment. That's never happened to me before. So I was excited, and I said, oh, what am I going to do with $90? I was just really glad, getting free money. That's always a good thing, right? So I just kept thinking, though, there was like this nag or pull that there would be a check in the mail for Mazda. And I was like, well, you got the $90. That's the check. So, but it kept coming to me. And you know how you try to reason with yourself, like I couldn't figure out why I was thinking what I was thinking, and I kept kind of trying to reason with myself, like, you got the $90, just move on. So then I get another check in the mail for $48. It was for a cancellation of a service that I had, like an extra service that I had with the old car. So I said, that was it. Okay, I got this money, it's $138. Whoop, I'm happy. So, but the nag just never, it didn't stop. Like it just kind of kept coming to me. So finally, a couple weeks later, no, actually it was a week later, excuse me, I get a call from the dealer and he says, "Hey, I need you to come in." And I'm thinking, oh no, what's going on? Like, is there a recall or something? And he's like, "I got a check for you from
Ooh,
Mazda for $480."
oh my gosh.
So I couldn't believe it. And I was just so happy. And I was in the car when I got the call and I'm just laughing and praising, that doesn't always work well when you're driving. But you can't be God given. And I was really, really surprised and really amazed at how that, like none of this has ever happened to me before. So I'm just like, okay, Lord, I am open. I'm here to receive it.
Oh, I mean, like I said, I remember getting those text messages and those voice memos, and I'm just like, man, like, keep it coming, keep it
Right,
coming.
right, right.
But, talking about keep it coming, I mean, I feel like another blessing, if you will, was your most recent unexpected raise. And it's so crazy because I vividly remember asking you if you would consider working somewhere else for a higher salary. I was just putting the feelers out, planting the seeds. And, I just asked that you just start thinking about it, like just, noodle on it. I heard, maybe it wasn't hesitation, but I don't know. I heard something in your voice. But I know that you do give things thought, right? I know that you will take what I say and really think about it. And then magically a few weeks later, you text me that you get, a nearly 10% raise for a market adjustment.
Yeah.
uh, walk me and listeners through that. Like, let's talk about that because that's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm going to take it back a little further. So last year, I received an unexpected promotion. So that jumped my salary up to about 11K. Unexpected meaning I had no idea that that was coming. And when it happened, I remember, because we were kind of having our sessions and that property tax thing kind of came out there. And I'm kind of looking at the money and everything's, all the ends are still meeting, everything's still the same. But I realized that I truly needed more money. And I say that because we tend to think we need more, but in reality, we need to manage it.
Mm,
So years ago, I would say, I need more money. Because, remember, my talk was, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. And I'm going to
mhm.
share this little bit really quickly. I remember being with my niece and nephew. They're adults now, with their own children, living their lives, being fabulous, but they were so young. They weren't teens yet, but they were almost there. And we had gone to get a water ice. And I remember my nephew asking for ice cream. And I said, "No, I don't have money for that." And then I remember him asking for like a pizza pretzel or something to that effect. And I was like, "I don't have money for that. I don't have money for that." And I must have said it so much. I must have said it so much that there was a gentleman in front of us. He turned around after he got up, was finished ordering and getting out of line, and he gave us $5.
Oh.
So I say that, and I had, and again, and that was years ago, before I even thought about, before I realized mindset and the way that I was talking, was not manifesting anything, if you will. So going back, just I wanted to touch on that because that was a time that I would have probably said, I need more money. Now,
Mhm.
mind you, I did not need the $5 because I think I had like $30 in my hand. And the water ice place that we go to, and I don't know, I don't know what you guys have where you are. Like, I know in New Orleans, I think they call theirs the slushies with the ice.
Snow cones, they call
Yes,
it here.
yeah,
Yep.
okay,
Mhm.
yes. So, so here in Philadelphia, they're a little bit different. They're not just crushed ice with a syrup in it. They actually mix it together, and sometimes there's fruit in it and all of that. And the place where we go is really not all that expensive. So for three people, I could have spent $10 each. But again, we're probably getting water ice and a pretzel. So just that thought back then was I need more money.
Mm.
So let's fast forward and jump back into the current store, the current state, and the question that you actually asked me. Um, so realizing that I needed more money and having that come to my mind and it really being true, we had already been managing it, and I just remember saying a prayer back then, last year, Lord, I need more money. And it was truly a need. Now, I don't feel bad. I didn't feel bad about asking because it was the truth. Now, of course, God already knows, but
Mhm.
so did I. That was the
Mm.
big thing for me. It was like, oh, wow, I really do need more money. I know where my money's going because we have been managing it. I've been
Mm.
sitting in front of every dollar that I'm spending. I've been making the choice of how I'm spending it. And now I'm looking and I'm saying, we need a little bit more. So when I got that promotion and that 11K increase came, it was, really helpful. It helped with the current expenses. It allowed us to kind of start to fund a little bit more some of my sinking funds.
Mhm.
So, coming into the new year, there was some room for more. Like I needed a little bit more. Some of it was want because I wanted to fund, want to fund my bit for my Vegas home. I want to add a little bit more money to the sinking funds. There's a few other sinking funds that I wanted to start, etc. Retirement, just kind of trying to pad that a bit more because I am older. I'm closer to retirement now than I was before. So as the expenses jumped up due to my property taxes, and we're still in the weeds with that. We're not exactly sure where that's going to go. That's when you asked me the question about another job somewhere else. Now,
Mhm.
I did hesitate about that. And there's some work for me to do there because I don't know why, but I'm just, it's a bit challenging for me to think about it. So I just kind of put that to the side. And I think, what was it? Like a week later,
Mhm.
my manager told me that I'd be receiving a market adjustment. And I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but a few days later, the salary then jumps up, another 14K.
Mm.
So increasing my salary, by 40K just in these 2 years, the 2 years that you and I have been working together, God meeting the need, he knows what we have need of, and then also allowing for there to be enough.
Oh, but also too, you managing your money. You were managing
Yes.
what you made back then, like before these raises, right? With the work we did
Yes.
together.
That is so true.
Yeah, so you put yourself in a position for more money to come your way so that you can do the right things with it.
Thank you for that. You're right. And again, I think when we were starting this, I was not even thinking about it like that. It was like, look, I have these two pennies and I need to make sure I know where they're going,
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I do recall that. Like I think it was because you had said, I remember you telling me that you did very well with like listing out your bills, making sure your bills are paid. That really wasn't the issue. You always
Right.
had that kind of down, but you couldn't really figure out the rest, right? And like what
Yes.
happened to the rest.
Yes.
So the work we did allowed you to know what happened to the rest and what should be happening with the rest. And you have been sticking to the plan, right? You have been sticking to the budget. If we say X amount goes here outside of your bills being paid, you do that. And
Yes.
that is you putting yourself in a position for more money to come your way because God, the universe, whatever anyone believes in, trust that you will do right by it.
Yes. Yeah.
You can handle it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just I remember that and I was on my walk. I was on my like my daily walk when I
Mhm.
saw that text message, and I literally like stopped in my tracks because I was like, wow, I just asked her if she would consider looking elsewhere to get a higher salary because
Mhm.
I know the things that you want to accomplish, right? And because
Right.
like, we're working towards these things, and I just it took me aback because you didn't even have to go look for a higher
Yeah.
salary and it
I know.
came
How
your
about that?
way.
Yeah. How about that?
That was such an amazing thing to witness for you, and yeah, I'm so happy for you, and you're worthy and you're deserving of it, Tamika.
You.
Um, so I don't necessarily think that people need to invest in coaching to manifest things, right? Like I don't think you can manifest without
I agree. I
investing
agree.
in a coach, right?
Definitely.
But I do think to manifest things, like the person has to truly make the decision that they want to change, right? And when
Yes.
you make the
Yes.
decision that you want to change and you start moving in the direction of change, that's when amazing things happen. But
Exactly.
what have your experiences been with investing in a money coach, right? Like you were the individual who did invest in a money coach and then put yourself in a position to make the changes to manifest things. So, what have your experiences been with investing in me and money coaching?
Um, just hmm, I think the fact that I'm now more aware of the value of money, and I'm not necessarily talking about I'll say it again, dollars and cents, like where can these 4 quarters go? But just the power of what I can do with it and the choices that I make with it. I've not ever been so in control of how I handle myself, handle my money than I have been these past few years.
Mm,
It is just a different choice now. Um, I'm I've never been one of those people who doesn't know how to say no too much, if that makes sense.
mhm.
Um, if I don't have it, I don't have it. And
And you'll say, "Nope."
right. Yeah. It's like, no, I can't do that. No, we can't go. Or you can go, but I can't go. But I've not ever really had a problem with that. But it's just like the level. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it so that your listeners can really feel what I'm saying. um, it's just that level of the choice that I make. It's like even when like when I'm hanging out with my friends and we're going to go eat, I know that I have budgeted for the money to spend for that. So now it's like, well, hey, let's go here. And it's like, yeah, but we went there and we hated the food. The drinks were okay. The service was horrible. Why am I going to spend my money doing that? So if any of that makes sense, that's one of the things, or the biggest thing I think that, or another of the biggest things that I've gotten out of working with you, just the power of what I can do with it. Doing this has also just given me more courage in other areas of my life, making it a bit more easier, if you will, to make decisions to say no. For example, because I, it's really surreal to me, because again, the focus here is money, but everything that I've been doing with my money, all the work that we've been doing has branched out into just about every area of my life. My level of confidence in who I am, even liking myself, wanting to take better care of myself, if you will.
Mm,
Those are the things that have come out of it. And then again, I'm going to say this last point, just that value, the value of your money, being in control of your money and being able to be comfortable, because I didn't realize that a lot of times I was stressed out. Like we'd go on vacation and I'd have money, but I might have had to take something from it, or I may have, take that money from somewhere else, excuse me, or I may have had to put some of it on my credit card. So I'm on vacation. I'm kind of stressed because I got to come back from vacation now and I have to figure out how I'm going to pay for that, and that I don't live that way anymore.
mm. Oh my goodness, you said so many great things. I think one thing that I want to just spend a little time on is when you invested in a money coach, it's almost like you are not just investing in, learning what to do with your finances, right? Like with any
Right,
type of investment, any type of
right.
coach, it's like you are putting yourself in a position to change your life. And as you just said, that's exactly what you did. So it's like this investment, maybe it started out as, okay, I need to just learn what to do, but it has turned into a true lifestyle change for you, not just with your money, but as you said, like with every area of your life. It's almost like, okay, I am learning how to improve my finances and I'm doing the work and I'm seeing the results. If I put this type of effort into improving other areas of my life, I will also see those results.
Yes, yes.
And I think that is the value of investing in yourself, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a money coach, doesn't have to be a personal trainer. When you invest in yourself, you are investing in changing yourself, right? And change is where you see those results. Change is where you open your eyes to what is possible for you. And I feel like you are a living testament of that.
Thank you.
What would you say to someone who is on the fence or scared to invest in a coach, invest in themselves, invest in a money coach, which I will add that I feel like investing in a money coach for someone whose mindset maybe not be may not be where it should be, that can be an extra hurdle, right? Like, well, why do I have to pay money to get better with money? But what would you say to someone who is on the
That's what the
fence of
BF
yeah,
said.
I mean, what would you say to someone who is listening and they're on the fence? What would you say?
I think the first thing that I would say is you're worthy.
Mm,
You know, it's the best investment that you can make for yourself. But I definitely believe that you have to be ready for the change. Because even if you're not far away from being ready, you're not going to produce the results you desire because you have to be all the way in.
mm,
You know, you'll get some change, but and this is my thought. I believe that if you're not quite ready and you take that plunge, you're going to walk away half changed or with half of the result that you want. And then you may very well go back and say that very thing. Well, why did I spend money on a money coach, about money? Why did I do that? So I do believe it's so important for you to be ready, even in the fear. If you're in that place where it's like, I got to do this, you're just going to step out. This challenges you to change your views. It'll cause you to walk in discipline. You have to be ready for that. But you also want to be able to be kind to yourself when it doesn't go quite the way you want, knowing that that very next step will put you where you need to be. Because, we're sharing this and, I'm in such a great place and I'm so glad to be able to talk about this. But we've had moments.
mhm,
Where it hasn't necessarily been easy. Like I know we'll be ending a session and it's like, damn, I can't believe that. And, this happened or that happened. Let's take, like the emergency fund. And I think I had something that happened with my roof and I had,
mhm.
had a water heater. Like last year was a little tough. There were some other things that were happening too that I hadn't planned on doing. And then, you know, but the realization was it's going to be okay. I'm doing exactly what I need to do. And that thought is like I said, the very next step you take will put you where you need to be. So I think those are some key things. Again, I'll say it again. It'll put you in control of your money and not the other way around.
Mm,
Um, like I mentioned, the emergency fund. So the emergency fund that we've been building, and I'm still building it. I still put money into it, but it hasn't been drained.
mhm,
So you have that unexpected thing come up because you've been managing your money, because you've been saving. It's not going to drain you, and you'll be prepared. I've sat in places. I have a friend who had something devastating happen and unexpected, which she had to put money out for. And we were all sitting together as she was going through it. And the amount of money that she needed, she didn't have. and she had to figure out how she was going to come up with it. And eventually, what she did is she went to some other family members and she was able to put it together. But when I sat and I reflected on that, and I said, oh my goodness, I'm not that person anymore because I had that amount and more
Mm.
to put into something like that. So that's one of the things that I would say. You're going to spend the money that you spend to work with someone, but you're going to get so much more out of it.
Yeah. And, I think to your point, you have to be ready. Like having one foot in, one foot out, it
Yeah.
doesn't give you exactly what you're needing, right? So you do have to be ready, but I feel like when you are ready, you'll know. And like all of the clients who have invested in me and coaching with me, they all say the same thing. I'm ready for this. Like
Yeah.
I can't keep doing what I'm doing.
Yes.
I something's got to give. And, when you get to that place, you seek what you need. Um,
Definitely.
so no pressure, but if someone listening has a question for you just based on the conversation we had, would you be open to receiving a question? And if so, how and where can listeners connect with you?
Okay, so I'm still a big Facebook user. My name's Tamika Henderson, Tymika. I am also part of the City Girl Savings Group for the listeners who are a part of it as well. And on Instagram, is it called a handle? I think that's what they
Yeah.
call it. It's Tamika 007.
Perfect. I will link to that in the show notes. And I thank you for being open to, any potential questions that come your way. Tamika, I say this often, but I am so proud of how far you've come since our time began together. And I know amazing things are still in store for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your insights and being vulnerable with all of us. It's so appreciated.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you.